welcome to CrimeDivers. I'm Laura.
And I'm Jill.
And welcome to today's episode.
Hello everybody, welcome to today's Laura-sode.
It is a Laura-sode.
Yes, I mean, we haven't had one for a few weeks because Laura decided to go gallivanting on holiday, so you might have noticed we haven't seen her. It's not been that long, because you only missed one.
Yeah, exactly.
Didn't you?
Yeah,
exactly. She only missed one episode. Well, she was here.
I missed writing one episode.
You missed writing one episode, yeah. I was trying to explain that, yeah.
I was still here to record because Jill kindly did an extra episode so that I could miss out on doing one. So we kept on track.
Yeah, she has a kid. It was the summer holidays. Yes. She was going away, and I was like,
yes,
okay.
It was impossible.
Yeah, so I was like, well, it was either have a week off, or I'll just do an extra one. I had the time, so I did it, and I think we're probably going to be having a couple of weeks off soon anyway, because I think we'll have a break at the end, the end of season break, which will be, I don't know when. Exactly.
It'll be soon. But and we're hitting nearly our 3-year anniversary as well.
We've passed it, haven't we?
That was the 20. Oh no, it's now. It's actually, isn't it today?
Well, not when this is going to be going out.
Oh no, but when we're actually recording. I'm sure it's today.
What date is it? I don't know what the date is.
29th of August.
Yeah. Alright, it's our 3-year anniversary. Happy anniversary!
Yay.
I did not realise that. But this episode is not going out until... this is next week, so this will be out on the 5th of September.
Oh, well, we're
so only a week late, yeah. But happy anniversary to us, 3 years, and we're still going strong.
We're still doing
and we're still going to be around for a good while yet.
Yes, we're not going anywhere just yet.
Well, we might have a couple of weeks off, but...
Oh yeah, but I mean, like, we're not stopping anytime soon.
No, so, anyway, Laura, as I said, it's a Laura-sode, so where in the world are we?
We're in the USA.
And what is the name of your episode?
It's called What Happened in Apartment 1502.
And are you going to tell us?
Yes, I am.
Please tell me this isn't going to be a mysterious one that should be on the Patreon.
No, I'm going to tell you. It's fine.
Okay, do you want to... sorry.
I was going to say, before we dive in, now this is Jill's fault. I'm going to blame you for this. Well, obviously not that anyone knows, but I really don't like typing. So I have I just hate it. But
it makes your fingers feel funny.
Yeah, it makes my fingers feel funny. So... Obviously, I type up my episodes on my iPad, and Jill suggested to me that I should try the
text. Speech to text.
Speech to text thing.
So
I thought, why have I not tried this before?
Did you try it?
So I have done this episode like this, but I had to keep going back and obviously correcting words on it because it obviously sometimes didn't quite pick up the right thing. So I hope that I've managed to go back and correct all the words, because obviously it does highlight it. And I was doing it obviously seconds after saying it, so it was kind of a bit to and fro. But I'm hoping that I didn't miss out any. So if you make any mistakes, I'm going to point it out. Yeah. But if I blame Jill, because it was Jill's suggestion.
Well, I was just trying to make things easier for you, because I type, my years of working in an office, I type on a laptop, I can type fast, and I enjoy it. So it doesn't bother me in the slightest.
My fingers just get really funny.
Yeah, but she
I don't like it.
Doesn't like typing, and then she got that pencil thing, didn't you, to try and write on her iPad with.
That was too annoying, because
she doesn't like that.
Doesn't like that either.
So she's too fussy. So that's what I said to her the other day. Well, have you tried the speech to text, which obviously she hadn't thought of. So let's see how you get on, shall we?
Let's hope it's all right.
Okay, so let's dive in then.
Let's dive in. So Faith Danielle Hedgepeth was born in Warren County on the 26th of September 1992. She was a member of the Halawa Saponi, I don't know if I've pronounced that right, I do apologise, Native American tribe. And she was born to parents Connie and Roland. She had 3 siblings, 2 brothers Caleb and Chad, and a sister called Rolanda. Her parents divorced when she was a baby, and she was raised by her mother and older sister. Faith, she adored her parents and her father, still had a great relationship with both. Roland said that she was the light of his life, and Faith had been born at a difficult time in Roland's life when he had been battling addiction.
Right.
And he said that her being born was a gift from God that gave him a reason to live.
Oh, that's nice.
So she was an honour student and earned herself a Gates Millennium Scholarship, which is available to high-achieving ethnic minority students in the United States.
Was that a bit of a mouthful there?
Wasn't it? So she was able to attend the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill, majoring in biology. Her father had actually attended the same university, but he dropped out. So Faith was hoping to become the first person in her family to graduate from college. Faith had dreams of becoming either a paediatrician or a teacher. And what is described, and she was described as lively and bubbly, and she was always looking to give back to people. And she, when she was at university, she did find the workload at university initially difficult, and she did fall behind a bit.
Right.
She fell behind on some of her studies, but she was undeterred and she refused to give up.
Oh, good.
However, she did start working 2 jobs to support herself, and then at some point she must have changed her major as well. And she did throw herself back into obtaining a degree. So she lived off campus in an apartment at Hawthorne at the View, so that's what it's called, Hawthorne at the View.
Right.
And she lived on the 2nd floor in room 1502.
Oh, that's not good.
No. She lived there with her friend who she'd met in her first year at university, called Karina Rosario, or Rosie as she was known. And it was also Karina's boyfriend, Eric Takoy Jones, and he lived there for a while, but Karina and Eric's relationship was quite volatile, so they eventually broke up.
Right.
And Eric moved out, so it was just Karina and Faith.
Rosie.
Oh, sorry.
Sorry, Rosie and Faith.
Yeah, sorry, I do actually refer to her as Karina throughout the whole thing, but I know she was known as Rosie, sorry.
So we're not calling her Rosie then?
No,
You're just going to confuse people, or I'm confusing people.
We'll just call her Karina and Faith.
Karina and Faith,
Yeah,
okay.
So they lived there together. So, as I said, Eric, I don't know too much about him, but obviously, I don't know, he obviously had a bit of because he had a volatile relationship, he had a bit of issues, so he actually attempted to break into the apartment twice, despite Karina changing the locks. So Faith actually eventually drove Karina to court one day so that she could obtain a protective order against Eric. This prevented him from coming anywhere near the apartment. However, when he moved out, he actually moved into another apartment in the same complex.
Oh, God.
So
obsessive much.
So he wasn't very far from the girls. He still lived fairly close. So it was the 6th of September 2012, and that day, just started like any other day. Faith attended all of her classes, and then she went on to an event it was called Alpha Pi Omega. So Alpha Pi Omega is the nation's largest and oldest Native American sorority. Mm-hmm. And Faith, she was hoping to join one day, so they obviously must have put on events to kind of let them know what it was all about, all that sort of stuff. So that's where she was. So she left the event at 7:15 in the evening to continue working on a history paper about her tribe at 8 o'clock. She and her roommate Karina, they went to the campus library for more studying together. So Faith briefly left the library, I can't say the word library, leaving Karina there, but she then returned at 11:30 that evening, and then both of the girls made their way back to the apartment. So that was about midnight. So students being students, they obviously decided that they fancied a night out at midnight. They just decided to go out.
Fair enough.
And about half an hour after they'd arrived home from the library, they set off to a nightclub called The Thrill. So they arrived there at about 12:40 a.m. The Thrill was well known for actually letting in under 21s to dance, because as in America you can't actually drink until you're 21. So the girls were obviously underage, but they were allowed in to dance.
Alright.
Which I thought, that's quite cool, because I don't know, I don't think we do that in the UK. I just don't think you're allowed in a club if you're underage. So
no, I don't think so.
So I don't know whether that is illegal, I'm not sure, but this club did.
Yeah, we don't know if that's actually a thing or if it was just something that club
did.
I'm
not sure, because I didn't come across anything that specified whether that was actually something that is legal and everywhere does that in the US, or just this particular club. But this particular club.
Well, I think that's a good idea, but then I don't know if it would be, because it would be easy for other people to buy them alcohol, wouldn't it, while they're in the club?
In that. So yeah, I don't really know.
Anyway, it doesn't matter, does it?
Yeah. So yeah, so they went in for a dance. Let's say. So the girls They went in and had the dance for about an hour and a half before Karina said that she felt sick and that she wanted to leave. So Karina and Faith were picked up on the security cameras leaving the club at 2:07 a.m. and Faith drove the pair home. And Karina said later that when she got back, she was sick due to drinking too much alcohol. So I am a bit confused, Because as far as I know, like I've just told you, they were studying in the library before they went out to the club, and they were only in the club for an hour and a half dancing. There was no mention of drinking, so I don't know if they actually were drinking, and obviously, you know, Faith had driven the pair home, so I don't actually know if they were drinking or not. But according to Karina, she was sick due to drinking, so there must have been drinking consumed somewhere.
Yeah.
I'm just not entirely sure how and when that happened, because it was not clear.
Maybe she was like going around the club and just like grabbing random drinks and just
maybe somebody was buying a drink. I don't know, because let's say it just seems not an awful lot of time for there to be drinking done. If they were studying in the library before they went out, they've decided to go out at midnight. I mean, unless they were drinking before, but I don't know, because it doesn't say. There's nothing to tell me that how they were drinking, but apparently she was sick, so fine, whatever. So a neighbour that lived below the girls recalled hearing banging noises just before 3 a.m. She said it sounded like thumping noises, almost as if a bag with books had been dropped or furniture was being overturned. That's just what it sounded like to her. So at around 3:30 a.m, records indicate that there was activity on Faith's Facebook account. And 10 minutes later, at 3:40, a text message was sent from Faith's phone to the phone of Brandon Edwards. He was an ex-boyfriend of Karina.
Right.
So some reports have suggested that Brandon was also romantically involved with Faith at one point, while others claim he was more like a big brother figure. So I don't really know whether he was or he wasn't. So the text message read, "Hey B, can you come over here please? Rosario needs you more than you know. Please let her know you care." So it's not a very clear message. So apparently Brandon replied to the message at 4:16 p.m. the next day,
right,
asking who it was that texted him, like who was texting him, but he received no text back.
But if they were like so either having relations or like a big brother, why did he not know whose number it was?
Well, exactly. So I don't
think it was saved in his phone.
Yeah, well, exactly. So that's why. But apparently, it was like who was asking who was texting him. So clearly,
okay.
So anyway, so Karina's obviously phone, her phone record shows that she had also been trying to contact Brandon Edwards at the same time, because obviously the text message was obviously from Faith, supposedly.
Yeah.
But apparently her records show on her phone that she was trying to contact Brandon at the same time. So going back to the early hours, at 3:52 a.m, another message was sent from Faith's phone. This one was to a boy called Michael O'Neill, and this was Faith's on-again, off-again boyfriend, who she had known since the first day of college. So an extract of the message read, "I know you're probably sleeping, but I just wanted to let you know that I love you." So this appeared to be the last activity on Faith's phone. And at 4:25 a.m, Karina actually got picked up by a friend and a soccer player called Jordan McCreary, leaving Faith in the apartment alone. So Karina said that she left the front door unlocked and believed Faith was asleep at the time she left. So first red flag there is I'm like, well, why are you going away at 4:25 a.m?
Where are you going?
And why the hell did you not lock your door?
Always lock your door.
Surely that's a standard thing. You're going out, you lock the door.
Especially when your roommate's in there.
Mm-hmm. So that's it. So she believes that Faith was asleep in a bed at the time she left. So Jordan drove Karina to his apartment, which was about 5 minutes away, and that's where she then stayed for the rest
So
of
was it a booty call then?
Well, I think it may have been, I'm not sure.
Which is fine, on you go, but lock your door.
Well, exactly. So the next morning at 10:30 a.m, Karina phoned Faith hoping to get a lift home.
Right.
So she was obviously phoning for her to come pick her up. But Faith didn't answer, so Karina called another friend named Marisol Rangel. So Marisol, she came and picked Karina up and headed back to Karina and Faith's apartment, and they arrived there just before 11 a.m. So, seeing Faith's car parked out the front, they assumed that she had simply overslept, because obviously they thought she should have been up by now.
Yeah.
That she probably overslept and she'd missed her college classes, because she should have been in college at this point as well. So they then entered room 1502 and they began calling out Faith's name, to which they got no response. So sadly, this is where it gets a bit grim.
Okay.
So when they went into Faith's bedroom, they found a truly horrific sight. Faith's partially naked body was discovered on the floor, leaning up against her bed and covered in a duvet. Her t-shirt was pulled up and over her face, and she had no clothes on from the waist down. The blood in the room was widespread, covering the walls, floor and wardrobe, and a used tampon was found near her body. Faith had been bludgeoned to death, and an autopsy later revealed that she died from blunt force trauma to the head. Her face was covered in cuts, and her body had been badly beaten. There was no signs of forced entry, obviously.
Obviously, because the door was unlocked.
The door was locked, yeah, unlocked. And unfortunately, there was no CCTV footage from around the complex to determine anyone coming in or out.
Oh.
So Karina made the call to 911. I have listened to the 911 call, but it was quite a long extract, so I didn't write it all down. But you can hear that Karina is very upset as she's making the call. She's just crying and talking, and she's explaining to the operator, you know, that she's found her friend. There's blood everywhere. The operator tries to get her to check if she's breathing, but Karina says she's not moving. And sadly, Faith was dead.
Yeah.
So her body was taken for an autopsy, and on further analysis, semen was found on Faith's body. However, it could not be determined as to whether this was consensual or a sexual assault.
Right.
The DNA from the semen also matched the DNA found in Faith's bedroom, and a pathologist was quoted as saying that there is no gross trauma to the external genitalia, vagina or cervix on external examination with a vaginal speculum, so they didn't think that at this point there was any
assault.
Yeah. But Faith's family, they believe she was raped.
Right.
Chapel Hill police believed it was more than likely than not that she was raped, as a Bacardi rum bottle was collected as evidence, which I'll tell you about.
Oh, okay.
Tissue fragments and DNA were found on the bottle, and it was thought that this could have been the murder weapon.
Oh, okay. So
next to Faith's body was a handwritten note, and it was written across a timeout, which I've never heard of timeout. It's a fast food place. Must be an American fast food place.
For some reason, I was looking at the chocolate bar, yeah.
No, I know, not the chocolate bar. It must be a fast food place
right.
in America. And it said on the bag, it said, "I'm not stupid, bitch, jealous."
Oh.
So again, I've seen the note. It literally just says, you know, that in sort of 3 lines.
Okay.
These things. It doesn't quite make sense, but that is what's written on it. So although the blood covered the walls and the floor, the note on the takeaway bag was clean. So that suggested that the killer had actually spent time in the apartment after
that happened, yeah.
Washing their hands and cleaning themselves before writing the note.
Mm-hmm.
Because otherwise you'd probably expect that to have probably blood on it or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So even if the note had been written before the murder, the killer would still have had time to spend cleaning themselves off before placing the note in the room. So I mean, they could have written it before if they'd wanted to, but they would, you know, there still would have been specks of blood around, you'd think, because otherwise it would have had something on it.
Yeah.
So a handwriting analyst, Peggy Waller, said that she felt the note was written with what is referred to as disguise, and whoever wrote it was deliberately attempting to change their handwriting.
Mm-hmm.
So the Chapel Hill's Chief of Police, Chris Blue, said that the murder rate in Chapel Hill equates to less than 1 a year, and Faith's death sparked one of the largest homicide investigations in North Carolina history. Faith's death sent shockwaves through the community, and fear quickly grew among her fellow students at the university. There was also a...
Oh, she's struggling.
I wrote, held a virtual honouring Faith with a Native American ceremony.
What have you written?
I have no idea what I meant there. But there was a vigil for her.
Right, okay.
I know that because I've seen it.
Right.
So there was a vigil held for her by her Native American people.
Uh-huh.
And I watched a bit of the vigil, and it actually was quite sad. Just you know, I'm sitting there saying that, you know, we've lost somebody today, and it was quite a sad thing. But so they did sort of hold a wee vigil for her. So Faith's mother, Connie, said that the family were actually unable to identify Faith's body, because it obviously must have been, you know,
because she was that disfigured.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
Right.
And it was actually 2 years 2 years before the family found out about the note that was left at the crime scene as well. So they didn't obviously get all the details for 2 years after the actual death. And it was also 2 years before they were actually able to read the autopsy report as well. So for 2 years, her poor family.
So they didn't really know.
I mean,
much.
they know she obviously had she had been murdered, but they didn't really know
know the details
of it, which I thought was quite a long time to let a family. I mean, I know there's obviously legal proceedings, and there's obviously
there must have been reasons for it.
But I think 2 years for a family not to know what really happened to their daughter is quite a long time.
It is, but as I said, well, if you've never been in that situation, you don't really know how the process works, and every case will be different as well, won't it?
Yeah, exactly. So I actually do want to tell you that all of the details surrounding Faith's death were sealed by a judge, and they remained sealed for 2 years, despite being against Chapel Hill Police's usual policy.
And so it doesn't say why. Why was it sealed?
I'm not sure it tells me exactly why. I can't remember now, but we'll
get to it. That's fine now.
So going back, obviously, to just because obviously that was 2 years. That's the definite details. But going back, to 2 months after Faith's death in November 2012, the university student newspaper, the Daily Tar Heel, petitioned the judge who had ordered the investigation records to be sealed. They wanted the judge to release an early search warrant in the case. However, the judge ordered that the records be sealed for another 45 days. So for some reason, this judge kept not wanting to release stuff to them for some reason. And at this time, 2 months after Faith had been killed, the cause of death had not been yet released to the public. So, this judge, I just don't know why they didn't want to release the details. I mean, I didn't see anything as to exactly why, so I don't know whether there must have been a reason.
Yeah, of course.
Don't know why? So like I say, the cause of death hadn't been released to the public. However, Connie and Roland Hedgepeth, her parents, they told the media that her daughter's death certificate said that she had been beaten to death, and that was on her death certificate, but that hadn't been released to the public at that point. But that's what they basically kind of, because they told that to the media, obviously they released that, I think, but the official public thing wasn't released initially. So in December of 2012, FBI began assisting the Chapel Hill Police Department in the investigation, and they developed a profile of the killer, because obviously we still don't know at this point who or what happened to her. We still don't know what happened to her at this point. So the profile stated that the murderer knew Faith and may have possibly lived close to her at one time. The FBI also believed that the killer may have been someone that took an unusual interest in the case, possibly talking to people about it and demonstrating behavioural changes. So they reckon that if it was known to her, they could have been, discussing stuff with other people that were wondering what happened to her, but knowingly known that they'd killed her. So in May 2013, the court extended the seal of evidence for a further 60 days, and also in this year, the Alpha Pi Omega, the sorority that Faith had dreams of getting into, inducted her as an honorary member.
Oh, that's lovely.
Yeah. So in July 2014, the Chapel Hill Police Department released 300 pages of details about the case. After a court ordered them to do so the public and media were finally able to get some understanding of what happened to Faith Hedgepeth the night. And 2 months later, the autopsy report was also released, confirming the same as the death certificate, that she had died of blunt force trauma to the head. She was covered in cuts and bruises to her body, as well as having blood under her fingernails, showing she had fought hard against her killer. According to court records, search warrants were only issued to 2 apartments, and they were both located at Hawthorne at the View. One was Faith and Karina's apartment, and one was in a separate building. And because obviously there must have been one building at this place. 2 sources have claimed that the woods behind Faith's apartment weren't searched, and it was noted that officers didn't search any other apartment on the premises. They didn't go door to door, and they didn't bring sniffer dogs into the area. So that baffles me as why they wouldn't have went door to door in every apartment of the block, and why they didn't search the surroundings, because
that's just normal. That's the way you're supposed to investigate.
Exactly. So another piece of potential evidence came from Faith's phone on the night she was killed. She had called her friend Una Chavez 3 times, And on one of the calls, she left a voicemail. Una said that Faith was notorious for accidentally calling people and leaving messages that she didn't mean to. So I think Una hadn't really thought much of it.
Yeah.
On the voicemail, you couldn't really make out anything. People close to Faith said that they heard what sounded like an argument or a fight between Faith and other people, but others heard what they heard was simply what they thought they heard was sounds like simply sounds like the inside of a nightclub at 1:30 in the morning. So some people thought they heard her having an argument on the voicemail. Some people thought it was simply like the sound of the inside of a nightclub.
Okay, I just think that would be quite different. The
thing is, we're going to go a wee bit more in depth.
Okay.
But just to note that our father Roland, he said that he hears his daughter in danger. So that's what he thinks.
Right. Okay.
So forensic audio analyst expert called Arlo West. He was an expert in audio enhancement and has over 30 years of experience in the audio and film industry. And he specialises, it's a lot of hard words in this, in pocket dial phone calls. So
right, yeah.
So you know what I mean when I pocket dial, you pocket dial somebody and it's a bit muffled and all.
Yeah.
So he believes that he had 4 voices on the voicemail, 2 male and 2 female.
Okay.
So the following transcript is what he thinks could be said on the voicemail. Now I've actually heard the actual transcript. Like I've heard I couldn't make out anything on it. Like if I was listening to that, I couldn't make out a single word. But knowing because obviously I was listening to what he thinks he's heard, and then hearing it at the same time, I kind of was like, oh yeah, I kind of slightly hear that.
Okay.
But if I was just to hear that like off the cuff with no idea, I would never have made out a single word.
Okay.
So I've heard it. So the following transcript is, it starts off with female. I'm gonna kick your face, bitch. I figured out that is bullshit. Female again. Don't ever think I would have believed you. Lies. Faith, apparently, going, ow. Then a female going, ow, which they think is potentially that female mocking Faith.
Right,
saying,
yeah.
Ow. Mm-hmm. Then there's another female saying, your talk sure ain't funny. You know he's gonna, and fuck you, I will fuck you, bitch. Then another female again saying, don't be a pussy, put up a fight. Male says, then you fuck her, Al. Male again, I'll fuck her. Faith, ow, my head. Female, do it. Male, I think she's dying. Faith, get off me. Male, shut your mouth, fuck Rosie. Now remember, Rosie was Karina. Then female, to go get Eric. So that's what this expert believes.
So this Eric, that's her Karina's ex. That
yes,
yeah,
that's the Eric.
Because I've been thinking this whole time that they both have something to do with this, but I'm not. I could be wrong. So I'm not. Well, I'm not saying something. I just did.
So I heard all that.
Right.
But let's say unless I hadn't read the words that this guy is.
You wouldn't have been able to
but
understand
because
it.
I've heard the words, it kind of starts to fit in. You can kind of make out bits, but. I mean, that's it. They must be pretty cool to enhance all that, because I said it was very muffled and couldn't make out anything clear. So the timestamp shows the voicemail was left at 1:23 a.m. So that obviously is a problem in itself, because this meant that Faith and Karina would have been at the thrill
at that time, right?
Because remember, from the CCTV evidence, we know that they left the club at 2:07 a.m. by all accounts. And I've seen the CCTV, but this voicemail was left at 1:23. But
so I'm confused now.
So I said at this time everything seemed to be okay, but the timestamp has actually been disputed by some people, including Arlo West, the expert guy. He said that he found that the particular brand of phones that Faith and Una had both had issues with timestamping and voicemails being sent incorrectly from like at different times. The towers, I don't know what I've written there, shut up. So basically the cell phone signals were glitchy at best. So he believes to a high degree of forensic audio certainty that the timestamp is actually incorrect.
Right. Okay.
I mean, I know phones these days are pretty accurate, but I mean, this was obviously, back sort of where phones were still in their early days of,
Yeah.
being there, so.
If they were, yeah, I mean, like,
they were on the camera at 2:07 where everything was fine. So that voicemail, if it is indeed
what he's saying,
it's wrong. But if, as disputed, where some people said they thought it was the sounds like the inside of a nightclub, at 1:23 a.m. they were still in the nightclub, so it could be that. But people might be saying that because that's where they know that they were. So
yeah, that's confusing.
Yeah, but so he reckons that the timestamp's wrong.
Right. Okay.
So Chapel Hill Police agreed to look at Arlo West's enhanced audio version and evaluate it for themselves. But however, due to the timestamp of the message, the police don't believe it to be a recording of the murder.
Okay.
But they're just going by the fact that that's black and white, the timestamp, but
right.
That's what time it was. We know they were in the club later, so they just dismissed that basically as being a recording of her murder. But after hearing the recording myself, I'm like, it's hard to, because I only, because of me, like, knowing what the guys thinks it said, it makes me think that is what's happened. That is what it is. But
what if that's wrong and that's not what that's been said?
I don't know. I mean,
you know what I mean? Like, how accurate is that?
Yeah, exactly. It's hard because like normally how many times in this day and age do the timestamps of photos, videos, phone calls, they're so accurate now that they can prove or disprove things that are happening. I mean, I remember, totally random, but when I moved house in 2020, we obviously hired a van, and I took photos of the van, like, because obviously when you give it back, they'll check to see if there's any damage and they would charge you.
Yeah.
So anyway, I had taken photos of all around the van, the tyres, etc. Obviously, we'd used the van, we'd given it back, and then they contacted Justin to try to charge us because there was a chunk out of one of the tyres.
Mm.
And I was like, I took photos of the tyres, and right enough, I went to the photos of the tyres, and there was the chunk out the tyre before we had used it, and obviously I had the timestamp to prove that it was before we used it, because it was literally sitting in the place they delivered it at.
Yeah.
So they couldn't dispute that.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I mean. So normally you'd think it'd be accurate, but again, I mean, we are talking, 2012, so 2011, 2012. So I mean, the phones that were out then, I think that was the beginnings of like iPhone and stuff back then. So maybe it wasn't as accurate as it is now. So I mean, I say that it could be wrong. I don't know, but one guy is saying that he thinks it's accurate. The police basically didn't take it any further because of the timestamp. And the police did say that the metadata associated with the call reinforces this too, so they're quite content with that. That's what they think that was the sound. But it must have been the sound of the club. That's what they're saying. That the voicemail was. Sorry, but as I said, there's always that element of doubt when somebody says no, it's not.
Yeah, and especially when somebody's like telling you what's said, and it sounds like that's what's being said.
Well, that's what I mean.
What's been done.
Definitely you could, but then I think sometimes when people have, you're made to that's what it sounds like. Then you start hearing it yourself. So
yeah.
I don't know. We'll never know if it was accurate or not. So 3 years passed, and there was still no answers as to what happened to Faith in apartment 1502. But a year later, in 2016, a sketch of the possible killer was released using genetic coding from the DNA at the scene, which acted almost as a blueprint. A company in Virginia were able to predict eye colour and skin colour, a freckling face, morphology and ancestry of the alleged killer.
That's well good, eh?
Oh. Each trait came with a measure of confidence. In using this data, police in the laboratory believed that this could be the face of the killer. Like, they thought it accurately depicted the face of the killer. Although this does not rule out anyone else, of course, being involved, though.
Yeah.
But according to the image, the suspect was very strongly Native American and European mixed ancestry, or Latino. Several people have been looked quite closely in relation to the case. Obviously, in the early hours of the morning, when Faith and Karina were picked up on camera leaving the club, they were spotted walking out with a male. And police checked all the footage and saw that the man had arrived at the club earlier with 3 other men. And the
Oh, don't know if this speech to text thing's very good, is
I
it?
wrote the old letter provided DNA samples of which none were a match to the crime scene. The old letter? I have no idea what that is. Provided DNA.
The letter that was written at the...
Maybe. That might be what it is.
Not one of your finest moments.
No. Karina's ex-boyfriend, Eric Takoy Jones, was also a heavy focus of the investigation. He reportedly resented Faith for her influence over Karina and felt that she had interfered with the relationship.
Right.
During a phone call, he allegedly threatened to kill Faith if he could not resume his relationship with Karina. And upon looking at Eric's phone, police found a text that he had sent to a friend, and the text was asking them to forgive him for what he was about to do. And that message was sent on the 6th of September, which was just the day before Faith was killed. Police also found a singularly can't say that word.
Similarly.
Yeah, so you can't say either. We'll skip that. Worded message to another friend via Twitter 3 days after Faith was murdered. Eric also updated his Facebook to say, "Dear Lord, forgive me for all of my sins.
Seriously.
All the sins and the sins I make today, protect me from the girls who don't deserve me and the ones who wish me dead today." So yeah, I remember reading that and it didn't quite make sense as post. So
He sounds like a delight.
yeah. So the police seized Eric's Jeep and searched his apartment, but said that nothing came up. Police described him as cooperative and said there wasn't enough evidence to arrest him, and his DNA was ultimately ruled out of the crime scene. Eric told reporters from what he knew of her, she was the sweetest person in the world. If you needed her, she was there. However, although he was ruled out as a suspect, police believe that he did remain a person of interest to them. So he was.
I've thought it's been him all along, so I'm confused now.
Yeah. Faith's father, Roland, has always been vocal about his feelings towards Karina. He said, "I think Karina knows what happened to Faith." And others have also expressed concerns regarding Karina's actions after the murder and about the 911 call she made that morning. And people found it strange that not only was Marisol's Rangel's name not mentioned, because remember she'd picked up Karina and went to the apartment, so she hadn't even mentioned about her being there. And given the impression, because also she gave the impression that Karina was in the apartment by herself, but also that Faith's name was never uttered in the 8-minute long phone call. So she never mentioned Faith, when she phoned 911, she never said, "Oh, my friend Faith," or, her name's Faith, never mentioned her name. And police said that there were things that Karina needed to answer and clear up when it came to the 911 call. Questions as to whether or not Karina was giving the police all the information she knew and whether the information was entirely truthful. So she was obviously not, giving out all the details that she maybe should have done on the call.
Yeah.
But then, I don't know, surely the operator would have asked her for details, so surely Karina's just giving her information that she was asked, I don't know. A downstairs neighbour said that she actually bumped into Karina and Marisol just minutes after they had found Faith's body, and she said of the encounter that you would never have guessed the two girls had just discovered a crime scene. Apparently Marisol was crying and Karina was just texting. So you wouldn't think that, coming across them, that they had just found a horrific crime scene. And people also found it questionable that Karina wanted to leave the club and go home due to feeling unwell, to then exit the apartment just hours later, leaving the door locked. So remember she went home and she had thrown up and been sick. Yeah. You'd think she probably would have just went to her bed and wanted to go to sleep. So
I like how you just said she'd thrown up and been sick.
Is that what I just said?
Just to clarify, being sick and throwing up is the same thing.
So to be fair, it does seem quite strange that because if that
she miraculously felt better and went out.
Like I would have probably just been like, "No, I've got my bed. I've been ill. I feel sick."
Yeah, I've been sick. I'm going to my bed now.
Yeah, I wouldn't think about actually going anywhere.
Although, I have been out drinking, went to the toilet in the pub to be sick, and then came back and just carried on drinking.
Yeah, I get that. If you're already still out, then maybe you do. But
it makes you feel better though if you've been sick.
Well, maybe, but I still think the fact that she's left the door unlocked.
As soon as you said that raised my suspicions. Because I thought, she's got something to do with it.
Well, exactly. Like, why would you not lock your door?
Of course you lock your door.
Well, yeah.
And as I said, especially when your roommate is sleeping, I would never dream of leave it. You know, somebody's in my house sleeping. I would never not lock the door.
Well, that's it. That's like, Justin, if he goes to work or I go to work, friends up, I always lock the door because you're still in the best sleep. But it's different if you're going out during the day and they're in, then fine, you maybe don't lock your door. But if I know they're sleeping because they're in a vulnerable position where they're sound asleep, I'm not going to leave my door unlocked for anybody to potentially walk in. Because, again, sidetracking a bit, I remember reading a story about a man, I think it was actually in Livingston. So
I remember. I know exactly what you're going to say.
And he had obviously must have went to his work early doors, left the door unlocked, and someone walked into their house and raped his wife.
Yeah.
I mean, that was by total...
He'd been trying the doors. The person who'd done it, I remember reading about it, and he'd actually just been walking along the street trying the doors. So it wasn't specifically targeted at her, at that family. But I mean, just because I don't know if he just forgot to do it or if it's something that he always did. I'm not sure. Yeah. But he didn't lock his door, and that's what happened. And ever since then, after reading that, I've always been so wary about it.
Something stick in your head, but that always sticks in my head, and I'm like, no, lock the door. I mean,
I always have the doors locked, even if if John goes out and I'm in the house by myself, I'll lock the door behind him. I'm just, my door is always locked.
See, whereas I don't, I'll obviously the door will be locked at night when we go to our beds, of course. And let's say if I'm working because I sometimes start work at 6 o'clock in the morning, so when I'm leaving at 5:30, 100% my door's locked. Yeah. I say if Justin goes to work before we're up, then he'll lock the door as well. But during the day, if we're both in, we don't actually lock the door. Sometimes I have found myself putting the chain across. I've got a chain as well.
Yeah.
I sometimes do that.
No, I've got John programmed. As soon as he walks in the door, now he locks the door behind him when he comes in. Yeah. I don't know if it's because since I've been doing the true crime as well, and maybe that's kind of I've kind of put that on him as well. Because I keep saying to him every time I see something on Facebook, to that village 7 miles down the road, there was they got broken into. So
well, see, I've got security cameras in my house now, and I get alerted to when somebody comes towards my front door.
See, I'm not that bad. I've not got it. But quite a lot of people are doing that now, though.
That's Justin more than me. He's security conscious.
Yeah, but he's weird when you leave the house. He has to check the door about 7 times.
I think that's probably OCD, but anyway, but back to this. So let's say that people also found it questionable that she just wanted to leave the club and then go home feeling well and then go away, blah blah. So we said that. So the man that picked up Karina that morning, Jordan McCreary, had a roommate who had spoken to the investigating team, because obviously they did a review of the case in 2018. Because at this point because it happened in 2012, so this was
5 years.
5 years. No, 6 years. 6 years. 2018. Oh. Yeah. See, I was like,
I was about to take the piss out of you because you had your fingers up, and I was like, she's going to start counting her fingers, and I'm the one who got it wrong.
Yeah. So 6 years. Obviously, they still hadn't got the killer or anything. So they had done a review in 2018. So a roommate of Jordan McCreary had recalled a conversation being had about a potential speck of red on Karina's clothes when she arrived at the apartment that morning. The roommate said that the police were aware of this, and they'd searched the apartment for Karina's shirt, and the Chapel Hill police did confirm this account that they'd also tested the shirt, but this test was not indicative of Karina committing the crime. And they also did not confirm whether the red speck was blood or not. The private investigator Hunter Glass had been working closely with Faith's family, and he also feels that more answers lied with Karina.
Mm-hmm.
He believes an argument between the girls happened at the Thrill nightclub, possibly to do with jealousy over dating or a relationship which may have led to Faith's death. But Karina Rosario, she moved out of North Carolina, and she actually hasn't spoken publicly about the case since. And Roland, Faith's dad, he said that she no longer takes his calls because they must have kept in touch afterwards, but she'll no longer take his calls. And police sources have said that whenever they've made contact with Karina, she's always been cooperative. So I think she obviously maybe just, I don't know, it was such a trauma that she wanted to move away and didn't talk about it.
Could well be.
So what if another one of Faith's old roommates, Kira, said that Faith was speaking with her high school sweetheart Alex at the time that she was dating somebody else. So his name was... at the time she was dating. somebody else. And she seemed conflicted about the relationship. So she was dating somebody, but also she was back speaking with her childhood sweetheart.
Right.
So she said that she was maybe conflicted. Kira said that there was always seemed to be some sort of drama. And with the one that she was currently dating, apparently he was described as having an obsessive behaviour when it came to Faith. And she said that Faith had told her once that he'd pushed her into a wall. And Faith's friend Una, who had received the voicemail, she also said the same, that Faith told her that the current boyfriend had hit her as well. So,
okay.
So he was spoken to as part of a 2018 review of the case and said that he had texted Faith on the morning of the 6th of September, and that was before obviously she was killed. He asked her if she wanted to hang out later, but he didn't receive a reply. But around 3:52 a.m. he received the message, but Roland doesn't believe that it was his daughter that had replied to that message, so she thinks that maybe she was already dead at that point. And the message went something along the lines of, I know you're probably sleeping, but I had to say that before, like, I just want to say that I love you, and not a day goes by when you don't cross my mind. And Una agreed. She said it didn't sound like how Faith was feeling just days before she was talking about wanting to resume a relationship. Just days before she was talking about wanting to resume a relationship with her high school sweetheart.
Yeah, because you were saying she was conflicted about that one.
So it doesn't really match up with the text saying that she would obviously loved her current boyfriend when she was conflicted because she wanted to sort of rekindle her childhood sweetheart. But apparently he did have an alibi for the night of the murder, and he submitted a DNA sample. However, he did say that he doesn't know if he was given the all clear by the police or he just didn't hear back from them regarding the samples. So the current boyfriend wasn't really sure whether, was he still a suspect or not. So decorated police sergeant Derek Lavassa and forensic psychologist Chris Mahady, they were part of the 2018 review of the case, and they spoke at length about the theories that people may have had. And police say that Karina, Eric, and the current book, I almost haven't told his name is Ty, sorry.
Right.
Eric and Ty, they should be considered as strong persons of interest. Derek discovered a theory that Eric may have brought someone back to the apartment with him, someone that wasn't as familiar with Faith, and that is potentially who the DNA belonged to, because obviously they had this DNA that didn't match to anybody that Faith seemed to know. So they think that it might have been somebody that wasn't in Faith's circle but knew somebody else. Yeah. So the two men found it odd and concerning that Ty downplayed the tension and volatility in the relationship, because he didn't really say that there was anything wrong in the relationship. Like, he wasn't saying that it was
was he making it sort of sunshine and roses?
Yeah,
everyone
he
was
didn't admit to pushing her ahead or anything like that. He downplayed it all.
That's not surprising though, would you admit to that?
Well, exactly. And he also so as I said, they also spoke about the lack of microscopic or trace evidence left outside the apartment. So Derek said, you couldn't just leave the apartment without leaving a single piece of trace evidence if you're not in a rush. So I mean, they basically think it was somebody that didn't feel like they had to get out of the apartment quick because there would be no suspicion raised of them potentially being there.
So they had time to remove evidence.
Yeah, basically. Yeah. So it didn't kind of went up. He went on to say that who would take the chance of staying in an apartment that wasn't theirs?
Yeah.
To write a note and to stage a scene unless they knew that nobody was going to be coming back. And Karina's the only person who would know definitely that no one else was coming to the apartment at 4:30 in the morning. She's the only one, unless there was somebody else with her. So, they're also saying that, there's no chance that if it was a random, they surely wouldn't hang around too much.
No.
To obviously, write notes and stuff like that.
Yeah.
They'd probably, do the murder and then probably, rush off, because who knows who might turn up.
Well, exactly,
they caught in the act. So that's what they're saying, is that they think that it must have been somebody that knew that there was nobody else going to be coming along. And the two men, they also, alongside many others, believe that Karina probably does know more than she's saying.
Right.
But they do go on to discuss a seeming lack of motive, because obviously if Karina was involved, why on earth would she commit such a crime against someone who is like a sister to her? And ultimately, investigators do not believe that this was a random opportunistic crime committed by a total stranger. They do believe it was carried out by someone that Faith may have known. Whether she knew them well or not, they still... and it was probably maybe like someone she knew through university, possibly. So over 2,000 people have been interviewed so far, either as suspects or people with potential information, but nobody has ever been charged. The DNA found at the scene has been compared to hundreds of samples, but sadly none have been a match. Police say this doesn't entirely eliminate anyone, though, as someone may know who the DNA belongs to or may still be involved with Faith's death somehow.
That's it.
Nah, I'm kidding, it's not. To be fair, that was it.
She's seen the look I just gave her.
That actually was it, because from what I had researched, but then of course I thought, shit, I better actually check in case there's an update, because obviously that report was from quite a while back, so I thought maybe I'll just Google, see if there actually is an update. I found an update.
Yay!
So it's not quite it. So on the 16th of August 2021,
2 years ago,
the Chapel Hill Police Department arrested a man called Miguel Salguero Olivares. He had not been a suspect originally, but was identified through DNA samples after he had been arrested for drink driving.
Right.
According to court documents released in January 2022, DNA found at the scene and a palm print found on the murder weapon matched him.
Oh, okay.
So this was 9 years later, obviously. This is 9 years after the fact. So he has been charged with first-degree murder, but police have declined to comment on whether he has any prior relationship with Faith. The police have asked for patience, as it will take time for the story to unfold. So there's still no trial or plea date. So I know it's a bit of an update, but I actually have no idea what this guy's involvement, whether it is how he knew Faith, was it just a random attack? No idea, because the police are not talking about it at the moment.
Surely they will, though.
Yeah, so that was a bit out of the blue. So I don't actually, which is annoying. So as much as it was an update, it's still a bit of a, I don't know what's happened.
So,
I mean, the fact that his DNA...
Well, his palm print is on the murder weapon.
Yeah, to me that sounds like pretty much it probably is this guy.
But I want to know who else is involved.
But unfortunately, I don't know anything about him. I don't know who he is. I don't know what involvement he had with Faith. I don't know who he knows. I don't know anything about him other than the fact that he obviously came up because he got arrested for drink driving.
We're just going to have to keep checking for updates, because surely... Because if you said there's no date set for hearings or sentencing and all that kind of stuff.
Well, they're not in a trial, has been set yet, so there's no trial for it yet. So it's still... The guy's been charged with first-degree murder.
So surely it'll come out then once the trials...
Well, yeah, because that's what I said. I mean, the police, like I say, they've asked for patience, as it will take time for the story to unfold. So they obviously have something. There's obviously a story to tell, but unfortunately it's not known publicly at the moment.
I wonder if Karina knows him.
Well, I still think that... I don't know how innocent... I don't know if she's innocent. I'm not sure, because I just find it weird that, you know, after going back to the apartment after the night out, and then she leaves at that time and leaves the door unlocked. I mean, I don't know whether that was a thing in there. Like, was that something they did? Was that normal?
She might be completely innocent.
Because that's an annoying thing when you do these cases and you get all this information, you don't get the context of how it's went down. I mean, they're just telling me on that the door was left unlocked, but
that might be normal.
I don't know whether that was normal, whether that was something that they did, whether they did it all the time, whether they'd done it hundreds of times and it was just that unfortunate one time. So was this guy a random guy trying doors and got lucky?
It happens.
You know what I mean? That's the annoying thing. So I don't know, but
imagine if she is totally innocent though, and like.
But then the phone call thing, that's what gets me as well, because it's very hard to decide. I mean, you're looking at this audio expert that's had 30 years experience that's saying no. This is what I've heard, this is what I can decipher from it, that's what that sounds like. But yet you've got the timestamp issue where people are saying that they think they've just heard the club, which would align with the timestamp of them being at the club at nearly 1:30 because they didn't leave till after 2. So again, you don't know. So I don't know. It's I can't decide what's happened on that.
Just because that guy's an expert and's had 30 years experience doesn't make him right.
It doesn't make him right. No, you're absolutely right. And as I said, from me hearing it, I couldn't make out a single thing.
Well, exactly.
I mean,
so,
but then a line in my head, what he thinks is said, and me hearing it makes me think, oh yeah, it could be that. You could hear that, but it's only because I know that's what he said. So I don't know. So it's kind of an annoying one in the sense of that we don't quite know what's happening.
If this guy's found guilty, then
So
surely we're going to find out details. We might not know because we're only going to know what he's going to tell.
Yeah.
But they're going to be able to establish whether he does have links to people that she knows or whether it's random and all that kind of stuff. So at least we'll find out that. So we are going to have to just keep our eyes open. And if anybody hears before we do, let us know, because we have very bad memories and might well forget to check in a few months.
I know. Well, I can imagine it's obviously not going to be something it's going to be a while probably before details maybe start coming out about it, I guess.
But if anybody has any theories or, as I said, if anybody finds out anything before we do, then let us know.
Absolutely.
But thanks for that, Laura.
No problem.
And thanks for listening, everybody, and we'll see you next time.
Bye.
If you would like to follow us on Instagram, Twitter or Threads, we are crime_divers_pod. We are on Facebook, TikTok and YouTube, and it's Crime Divers Podcast. Our email is crime_divers_pod@outlook.com. Our website is crimedivers.co.uk. If you would like to join our Patreon, it's patreon.com/crimedivers. And if you would like to buy us a coffee, it's buymeacoffee.com/crimedivers.
And if you haven't already, please don't forget to subscribe, rate, review.